Day 1 at Edgbaston, and this is Ask George. Question 1 comes from Lev Parakian. If you didn't enjoy that, what do you enjoy?
Hello, Lev. I would have quite enjoyed England being 600 for 4 and the bowlers looking absolutely exhausted, having to go into a third morning of bowling.
Not asking for much then.
No, you're right. It was brilliant, but that last 20-minute session is absolutely key in sort of understanding this. Ben Stokes would absolutely say, was that entertaining? It was, and everyone in the crowd loved it, including us, obviously. But was it the best thing to do? Don't know. What are the chances of getting a wicket in a 4-over spell like that with the light was brilliant? And don't know. Or would it have been better to push on and maybe get 450? I don't know. I mean, these things aren't necessarily right or wrong. But it was a brilliantly entertaining day. But there are lots of different ways to be entertaining, and winning the Ashes is pretty entertaining however it happens. Do you remember when England won the Ashes in 2013, 3-0, and people moaned about it not being entertaining enough? I didn't.
We'll always find something to moan about, won't we?
Yeah, probably, yeah. That's fair.
Question 2 comes from Jonathan Collett. For all the pundit chatter, especially the Aussies, the score suggests that's not a bad test wicket, is it?
I don't know. Were there complaints? I think some people complain about the wickets whatever happens. Usually people from Australia complain that what's the word they say they are? Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. What do they say that?
It's riveting TV, this.
What do I mean when they talk about, oh yes. So generally it seems to me that people in Australia moan about the pitches being doctored if there's any semblance of, green grass or movement. And now we've got one that clearly isn't doctored, that clearly is, pretty lifeless, really. And they're complaining that, it's not doctored. What do you want? It's not Australia. The pitches aren't the same as Australia. They're not. The Australian people go to India and moan about the pitches being Indian. They go to England and moan about the pitches being English. If you don't like it, just watch cricket in Australia.
Actually, Josh Hazlewood in his presser today said it was subcontinental, that pitch.
Well, it wasn't. It wasn't. It's an English featherbed. When pitches are flat in England, they're real flat. Now, whether the only interesting thing might be if it starts to wear and even break up and give a bit of uneven bounce. Not a lot, though. It's going to be pretty flat, I think.
So there, Josh Hazlewood. Sushant asks, isn't tail-end twatting greater than some overs at openers in a day test on a flat pitch?
I don't know. There's not a right and wrong, is there? It was fun. Had it got a wicket, and it could easily have done, it would have been worth it, wouldn't it? So it was a gamble. It was a positive move, and it didn't particularly work out. I don't know. I don't see it as a big match-defining drama.
It was some fun while they were twatting it about, though, wasn't it? Root just emerged from his shell there. He could have kept on. He could have gone and added another 40.
Yeah, and I thought Robinson batted really well with him as well. I thought it was a really important stand. So they they absolutely could have got another 40 or 50, or who knows what would have happened. But it wasn't an unreasonable thing to do, and it was very, very on-brand Stokes.
Frank Morris asks, England's best batter both before and after Stokes' inauguration has been Root, and his method has largely been unchanged. Is that an interesting indictment of Bazball or just a banal observation on how good Root is?
Hello, Frank, and best to your dad. I think I've known everyone who's asked a question so far. I think that I'm not sure I agree with the premise. I think he has developed his game a bit. I mean, he hit 4 sixes in this innings, didn't he? That isn't what Joe Root used to do. But, those styles complement one another. And the way that Australia changed their methods, pushing the field back on a slow wicket, I mean, that played into Joe Root's hands a little bit, I think. So I wouldn't, there doesn't have to be one way of doing things. I don't think Joe Root particularly needed to change the way he played. And it was a day that, as I say, played into his hands, really.
Greg asks, does Ben Stokes need to get himself in a bit more instead of trying to wahoo down the ground from ball 1?
Yes, categorically yes. He's selling himself short, yeah.
Why do you think that is? Is it just is it ego? Is it just in his head to try and show the rest of his team how he wants to play? I mean, what is it? Because it's not quite working for him the same way as it's working for most of the rest of his teammates.
Well, I think he's a very selfless leader, and he's trying to lead by example. But he just needs to remember that nearly all his best innings have come when he's played himself in, given himself time. Even his last Test century, which I think was at Old Trafford, I think his 50 took 100 balls. He'll always catch up. He needs someone to captain the captain. This thing that we said ages ago that he was becoming Mike Brearley. Well, Mike Brearley was actually quite a good batter who never got the best of himself at Test level, and he's very interested if you ever ask him about that. Sometimes it needs someone to show all that brilliant psychological skill with the person with the brilliant psychological skill. Be the doctor to the doctor. And he's such a wonderful batter, and he's so obviously well-intentioned it's a little bit infuriating. But he might say that he's underlining the method that they want to play, and that it's worth it. It's about winning, not his personal stats, and they've won 11 out of 13. It's tough to argue with that. So again, it's not a black and white situation. But you're asking me my view, I completely agree with yours. I would love to see him play himself in and play properly. I'd like to see him play like Joe Root.
JB asks, your favourite subject, slow overrates. Needs to start being punished with runs rather than fines. If not that, what's the alternative? I think we lost 8 overs today.
Was it as many as that? Well, firstly, I'm not sure that many people in the crowd went home with that at the forefront of their mind. Now, because it was an entertaining, brilliant day and all the rest of it. Having said that, you are right. I'll reiterate what I've said before. Not sure that we need to think about that if we put in place this system where spectators are getting compensated for the lost percentage of play they get each day, because the only thing that makes authorities act is hitting them in the pocket, and if they're replaying 9-10% of the ticket price every day, by God, you've got their attention. But of course, as well as that, you could do 20 runs and over, and it would be a situation to be resolved today.
So it was 6 overs, wasn't it, with 2 for the change of innings, so 6 overs lost today.
Yeah, but if you 120 runs, is that 6 times 20, I think it is, then I think that, you've got a very different day, and Australia would have got those overs in, wouldn't they?
Pazza asks, were the Bairstow and Mowing dismissals brainless shots or acceptable collateral damage of Bazball?
Can they be both? I think maybe they can. And also, were they the same just because they were stumpings? I don't know. I'm loath to sort of applaud the bravery and the shots that go for 4 and 6, and criticise the times they miss, because there's going to be some risk in the way they're playing. And when you recall Mo, you know what you're going to get, and that was Mowing distilled. And as I sort of alluded to on Twitter, he ain't changing now. He is beautiful. He timed the ball so nicely. There was a 6 that he pulled, and I thought it had gone to mid-wicket or something, because it hardly looked like he hit it. It sailed over the longest boundary for 6. And there were a couple of other really gorgeous shots. And it was classic Mowing. It was beautiful, it was brief, and it was infuriating. Lovely. Always leaves you wanting more. What was it Oscar Wilde said about a cigarette? It's Mowing.
Jack Rule asks, does that start an innings from Zach Crawley quieten those who say he shouldn't be playing?
Yeah, of course it does, because he played absolutely beautifully, and he got as close to an unplayable ball as was bowled during the day. Yeah, I mean, a perfect pitch for him, but he did it. He nailed it, and not everyone would have hit that first ball for 4. A lot of batters would have left it. So yeah, it's a big tick for the England management, a big tick for him, and I've been saying in recent days you could play Dom Sibley ahead of him. I'm not necessarily arguing that you should. I'm just saying you could. Well, it would have been a completely different day. They're not having a deep point to Dom Sibley, are they? So he does change the way the opposition play. There are lots of positives, and I thought, he played really, really well today.
And Danny asks, with Crawley not walking after edging the ball to the keeper twice today, what name will the Brisbane Courier Mail give him?
Really funny you should say. So because I saw that question come in, and I looked on their website, and I saw that it said that England basically said Australia met fire with fire. I was thinking, that's the last thing they did. I mean, they really, really didn't. And if that had been an England captain who had started with, I think I remember they called England the Balmy Army on one of the last tours, the Courier Mail, when they had, a man out on the fence. So, you make a good... I didn't read the piece beyond the headline, but it said something like they met England's fire with fire of their own, or something like that. And it's utter nonsense, as ever, as that absolute crap story about Broad not walking when had him parried it to slip. That's why you read the Cricketer for.
Go on, sell yourself, George. You
No,
can do
you
it.
sell yourself. That's your job, really. That's why you read the Cricketer for Nick Friend's informed analysis.
Which you can also get tonight, as well as George's recap of day one at Edgbaston, www.thecricketer.com.
Really good questions, by the way. Thank you.